first thing I remember at the Chinese restaurant is I remember the exact restaurant I was in with Larry. It was Genghis Cohen's on Fairfax. And we were waiting for a table, and I remember him writing the idea down.
I thought this could be a pretty funny idea. Waiting in real time. You get 23 minutes to do the show, whatever. Let's just have them wait 23 minutes for a table.
I remember getting the script, because Larry and Jerry wrote everything out by hand, and there were no scene breaks. And I was very confused, because to me, scene A, scene B, scene C, we had scene breaks. And there was no scene break, there was only an act break. And I was like, there's something wrong, because I hadn't read through enough of it to say, oh, it's all in the same place.
I read that script and I went, nothing happens. Am I missing pages? Literally, they go to the restaurant, they stand around, they can't get a table. Nothing happens. Are they trying to save money? I didn't get it.
I adored the Chinese restaurant when I first read it. And I couldn't wait to do it because it was like doing a play.
NBC, when we suggested that we wanted to do this one set idea where the gang just waits for a table the entire show and never gets it, they thought that was very static and not appealing.
And I knew, I don't know how I knew, I may have picked it up at the table read or guys may have talked about it, but I knew the network was up in arms about this episode.
I really felt, Jerry, Larry, doesn't something have to happen in this show?
Eventually we put in the clock, and I was a big fan of Plan 9 from Outer Space, so we decided they were going to head out to a movie, and it was Plan 9 from Outer Space, it was only playing one night, and it put some pressure and it ratcheted up the stakes.
You don't understand. This isn't plans 1 through 8 from outer space. This is Plan 9. This is the one that worked. The worst movie ever made.
That was the first episode where all 4 of the characters didn't participate, and Michael Richards was left out, and he was very upset about that.
When I wasn't in the Chinese restaurant episode, I felt hurt. I felt that I was being written out of the show. I remember Larry came to me and says, we're not going to do this all the time,
The reason why the character isn't in the Chinese restaurant episode is because that was part of the character. He didn't go out with them.
He was confined to his apartment. He never went outside. I said, that's a good hook.
If that episode had been written a year or 2 later, he would have been there.
The Chinese restaurant episode was so unique that I just wanted to be a part of that uniqueness because it was cutting edge. I knew that was a very important episode. So odd.
After the show was handed in, NBC didn't even want to run it. They hated it, hated the show.
They thought this was a betrayal. They thought this was just sacrilege. How could a struggling nothing show like this that nobody's watching, how dare you try and pull something off like this?
They held it back and didn't run it until towards the end of the season because they were so sure that this was going to really be one of the real bombs of the season.
And yet, they let us do it.
The only thing that they said was, we completely disagree with this idea, but if you want to do it, go ahead. And I thought that's all you can ask for, is they gave us the shot.
I feel like just walking over there and taking some food off of somebody's plate.
I'll tell you what. There's $50 in it for you if you do it.
What do you mean?
You walk over to that table, you pick up an egg roll, you don't say anything, you eat it, say thank you very much, wipe your mouth, walk away, I give you $50.
Should I do it, George?
For $50? I'll put my face in this soup and blow.
Turns out that became one of the episodes that really put the show into another category.
To me, it was the defining beginning of the anarchy of Seinfeld, and it was a great episode.
Caught, right?
The
phone message with George, leaving a message on someone's answering machine and then regretting it. I have left some of the worst messages that I have regretted. So many messages I've left, particularly with women when I was single. And they've ended it for me. They totally, I'd leave a message and stammer and that was it. They never wanted to see me again.
So, you call me back. If you want. That's up to you, you know. Whatever you want to do. Either way, the ball's in your court. So, take it easy.
I wrote a sketch for Saturday Night Live of a guy breaking into a woman's house to try and retrieve the message. And of course, they didn't do the sketch, but then I used it on Seinfeld.
My memory of that show was that Jerry personally hated those Dockers commercials. And that whole plot line was an extension of Jerry's real life attitude toward that product, not the product, but its commercials.
Why do I buy tan pants, Donna? I don't feel comfortable in them.
Those cotton Dockers?
Oh, I can't begin to tell you how much I hate that commercial.
Really? I like that commercial.
I first had a thought of Elaine thinking about moving out of the city, like she can't stand it anymore, and Jerry kind of like having to confront his feelings about her and, you know, try to get her to stay. Jerry and Larry Charles decided that it would be funnier if she was moving into his apartment, in other words, closer to him rather than farther away. And then I was thinking, oh, you mean so it's like, oh God, you got your ex-girlfriend in the apartment. You know, you're gonna have to be like a cat burglar, you know, just to keep your life private.
And I'll be right upstairs?
Right upstairs?
Right above you?
Right above me.
Oh, we're neighbors. I'll be here all the time.
All the time.
We can exchange keys so we can come in and out. Oh, this is gonna be great.
All the time.
And that was all they gave me. They said, okay, go ahead and write it. Which is unlike any other show where they would have given you beat for beat for beat and you would have just been connecting the dots. They just gave me this one storyline and said, okay. So as I'm writing it, I came up with this other idea that seemed funny about George wearing a wedding ring to a party. And just to see if, you know, women would really come on to him because he was, you know, married and safe.
So, are you really married? Because I've actually heard of single guys who wear wedding bands to attract women.
You would have to be a real loser to try something like that.
That's too bad, because I really have a thing for bald guys with glasses.
I turned in the script to Larry and Jerry. And Larry said, we'll call you in a couple of days. We're not going to be able to read it for a couple of days. And then I drove home, and I got on my answering machine. I turned on my answering machine, and it was Larry going, we were lying. We read the script as soon as you left. It was fantastic. We loved it. You're terrific. Welcome aboard. So it was very gratifying. And, you know, I did have a sense that suddenly I was launched into a whole new career.
I began to feel that the Kramer character really became Kramer when we did a show called The Statue, where I went undercover to play a cop.
Freeze, Mama! Shut up! Oh, Soprano! I said Soprano! Oh, you're in big trouble, son. Burglary, grand larceny, possession of stolen goods, and murder! Murder! So, keep them spread. Just make love to that wall, pervert. I think you have me confused with somebody else. Is your name Ray? Yeah. Yeah, you're the punk I'm looking for! Hey, are you a cop? Yeah, I'm a cop. I'm a good cop. I'm a damn good cop!
I'd said to Larry Charles and Jerry and Larry David, I said, God, we've got to keep going in this direction. And of course, I had the ability too, as a comic actor, to pursue that direction.
One thing that always became a joke on the set was the woman who played Rava. She has a line when she says, Desiree, late as usual.
Desiree, late as usual.
We picked that up for some reason. We were just absolutely entranced by the way she had of speaking. So we would always go, Desiree, late as usual. So for season after season, we would, just a single line like that there would be gales of laughter. If I turned to Jerry and I go, Desiree, late as usual, I know he would start laughing, which is kind of funny because in other words, I know that in the public that sort of happened. Certain little lines caught on and became almost part of the popular culture, or did become part of the popular culture. Well, it certainly happened on our set as well. It wasn't always the same thing though, but Desiree definitely did.
I don't have any particular memory about the statue episode as much as a backstage incident with the guest star Narit Capel, who was an ex-girlfriend of Richard Lewis's and therefore someone who Jerry knew rather well. And Jerry and she had a sort of a little bit of a combative relationship, I guess, because, in the breakup, Jerry had more or less sided with Richard, I guess, as guys will do. Anyway, we got into the makeup room before the show, and Jerry had asked a very simple question. It was almost as innocuous as, how you doing? And she went into an answer that was just a little brutal. And Jerry had a line that I will never forget, and I've used it many times. And he said, Narit, talking to you is like driving a truckload of nitroglycerin down a really bumpy road. And I thought, check. Jerry's had a couple of zingers that I just have always gone into my date book of going, got to haul this out every now and then. I always footnote them when I use them, but you got to use them, and that was a great one.